The training of a pigeon starts the moment it is weaned and has to fend for itself. Youngsters are weaned any time between 21 and 28 days of age. They would normally not attempt to eat during the first day after having been taken away from their parents. Therefore, it is better to take them away in the evening after they have been fed. If fed properly, they will not be too hungry the next morning. Welcome to this animal channel. Watch the full video to learn more about the young racing pigeons. The first lesson to teach them will be to drink water and to know where the water is. This is done on the evening of the first day after they have been weaned, by gently dipping their beaks into the water dish. Don't pick the youngster up from the floor. Leave it to stand on its feet, just holding it over the back and wings with one hand and dipping its beak into the water with the other hand. It will struggle a little but will start drinking the moment it realizes that its beak is being dipped into the water. Sometimes it will be necessary to repeat the exercise the next day, but most pigeons will go to the water themselves the next day. You may also try feeding them now, and I usually place a little food in the hopper so that they can see it. Some of them will immediately start picking at the food and their example will be followed by the others. Never feed just weaned youngsters on fine foods such as wheat or other fine seeds. Give them only peas, beans and maize. Youngsters get spoiled with fine foods and don't want to eat the other foods later. This bad habit will only show up when you start exercising them, since they cannot eat sufficient quantities of their favorite fine seeds to build up the required energy. At feeding, you will soon pick out the pigeons that only eat fine seeds by their habit of running around in the loft with outspread wings and showing every sign of being half-starved. This is also the time to get them used to your call or whistle. Even the rattling of the food will tell them that it is feeding time, and if they are hungry, they will respond to your call after the second or third day. Although there are fanciers who believe that youngsters should not be rationed, they should certainly not be overfed. For the fancier, this is also good training in itself to learn to know exactly how much food his pigeons get at any time. The amount of food eaten will vary from meal to meal, but one should be able to get some idea of quantities. The youngsters should be fed just enough at a time to last them until the next meal. Remember that the fancier who overfeeds his pigeons have no hope of exercising any control over them. In the beginning, I would advise you to hand feed the birds. This means that you should either sit or stand in the loft and feed them by putting down their food hand by hand, watching them as they eat. You should only put down a handful at a time and will soon learn to know when they have had enough. There are various signs indicating that this point has been reached. Some fanciers stop feeding when the first or second bird goes for a drink. Experience will help you to recognize when the birds are satisfied. Decide which fancier to put your faith in and do as he advises you. Read as much about pigeon racing as you can, but try to form your own opinions about things. Try to avoid chopping and changing after every book or article you have read, or after each visit to the previous week's winner. I began by advising you to visit as many fanciers as possible. However, decide beforehand what you want to do and stick to it. No fancier can achieve success when he keeps changing. This is one of the lessons you will have to learn. Do one thing at a time and have patience. If you make several changes simultaneously, you will never be able to tell which change was the correct one if success is achieved afterward. It is worthwhile tackling one problem at a time and mastering it. Pigeon racing is something that cannot be mastered in a short time. If you learn nothing else from it, it will at least teach you to have patience. The most successful fanciers are those who have struggled the most in the beginning and who have made the most mistakes. They have learned from experience and know the answers both to their problems and yours. Training racing pigeons. Today, pigeon racing is a great way of entertainment, and it's also a great way for making some extra cash. You need to train your pigeons well for competing in pigeon racing. You also need to train the pigeons so that they come home daily and safely. Minimum age for training racing pigeons. You should start training homing pigeons when they are at least 6 weeks old. You can help your pigeons figure out the trapdoor in the loft when they are 6 weeks of age. The trapdoor is designed to allow your pigeons to get into the loft anytime they want, but you'll be able to set the trapdoor to only let them out when you want. It will be good and helpful for training homing pigeons if you put together a training schedule. Training homing pigeons actually requires dedication and lots of time. It will be good if you have a schedule ready so that you know what you have to be ready for each day. And this will actually help you keep the training process consistent. The training schedule should include training homing pigeons at least once a day. Ensure adequate facilities. You must have to ensure adequate facilities for your pigeons. Ensure the birds have the incentive to return to their loft. Some common things which make your pigeons want to come back home are comfortable housing, loft, obviously good food, and being treated like royalty. It will be good for your pigeons if you can provide them with the highest quality food and safe loft you can afford. Begin training. Start training homing pigeons to come back home after being released. You should not anyhow do this before your pigeons reach 6-8 weeks of age. You can start training your pigeons to come back home by taking them around 1 mile away from home and releasing them. Expand distance each week. You need to expand the releasing distance gradually. Expanding the distance by less or more than 5 miles per week will be good. Taking the birds in different directions each time and releasing them will also be good. But remember, don't expand the distance too fast and too far. You need to stop increasing the distance if your birds have any trouble and continue training them at the last distance where they were successful. Second home. Creating a second home for your pigeons is a good idea. You can train your birds to fly between 2 loft locations, in addition to training them to return to your home loft. For example, the second home can either be your cottage or your friends' relatives' home. Feed your birds with high-quality foods at both lofts. Doing this will give them the incentive to want to return to each loft. Generally, they will fly to the other loft to look for food, especially if they are at one loft and are hungry. These are the common ways of training homing pigeons. If you are raising homing pigeons, you need to follow this guide for training them. Good luck. Subscribe to our channel to keep up with new content. Your subscription, support, and feedback are much appreciated.